10 years. 10 years of pain. 10 years of lies. 10 years of PR shit shows. But hey, at least Meghan Markle brought all of us together. At least Meghan Markle created this community of royalists as we learned what we had to fight for to get the truth out, what we had to fight for to actually prove that everything she had told Oprah Winfrey, everything that she had told Netflix, everything that Harry wrote in Spare were just big, fat lies. So on this special edition of Outspoken today, the royal YouTube sensation, according to Taz and myself, are celebrating not what I think are highlights, Tash, because let's be honest, there's been a lot of pain connected to these moments, especially for royalists, but also the human beings involved. You know, a dying Prince Philip, a dying Queen Elizabeth II, a cancer-stricken Catherine, the Princess of Wales, a totally despondent Prince William. But I think along the way, you also have to look at this decade and think, well, actually, it has galvanized a lot of us to realize what we're up against, to realize the PR machine that surrounded someone like Meghan Markle. And if people like you, Tash, hadn't actually decided to go independent, start calling out her, and I'm sorry to use the term, but her bullshit, because it is. And I do think a few odd exceptions who were in the mainstream media at the time, like me, but outside of the royal rota, then actually we might be in a very different place today. Meghan could actually be celebrating the end of the British royal family, right? The latest bombshells from Harry and Meghan that the Montecito Mafia and the rest of the media are desperate to hide. Subscribe right now for the real story with zero spin and zero censorship.
Yeah, I mean, 10 years. Has it been 10 years?
10 years since she met Harry. And I guess at that point, Tash, I mean, I know some of you were on it from the start, but I guess for the first couple of years, we had hope at least. Maybe we had some nervousness, but we had hope.
Yeah, I mean, it was the build up towards the wedding, wasn't it?
When did you first realize? When did you first realize, Tash, that something was wrong?
I liked her when she first came on the scene with Harry because I thought after he'd broken up with Cressida and he met an actress that likes going out and partying and having fun. And I thought, you know what? She's his Fergie. That's why Fergie was so suited to Andrew. I mean, obviously we know terrible things about them now, but back then, you know, people really did like them because they were playful and fun together. And I thought Harry was actually better suited to a woman like this that doesn't take herself too seriously, that does quite happily walk around in jeans and a shirt and a beanie and a baseball cap and isn't obsessed with fame and with money. But I was duped like many, many people. You know, Meghan did dupe people. She was very clever at making people think that she was actually someone that was just down to earth, which she wasn't. It became more apparent when I noticed the paparazzi strolls. So it was just before the engagement announcement, and I noticed that Meghan was appearing quite a lot. Prince Harry's girlfriend. And there were lots of stories coming out saying that she was being hounded and chased, but you never actually saw videos of her being hounded and chased. And then, of course, with the big statement that came out where Harry's like, leave my girlfriend alone. Everybody's being racist. Everybody's being mean. I was like, oh dear, she really is an actress. And then from that point, I think once you start to have the wool pulled from your eyes, you started to see these stories coming out about how Meghan was complaining about Catherine not giving her a lift into town. And Meghan was shopping and photographed outside the front of the palace when she could have used the private back entrance. It was becoming very, very obvious that she was going to cause a problem. And I think it was, Ingrid Stewart, I think it was. She turned around and said that this is going to go badly, that she's going to marry into the family and she's going to be out of there with Harry, with the kids, with her bags of gold. And she was right. She was spot on. But yeah, I'd say it was from that moment when she was photographed more and more and it was being released. And then she did an interview, I think it was a Vanity Fair, dressed like a princess whilst Harry was telling the world to leave her alone. It became very obvious that what Meghan was saying and the way she was behaving wasn't quite marrying up, you know.
Indeed. Well, Tash, for me, the first moment that I think I really realized something was very wrong was in those weeks before the wedding when I became friends with Samantha Markle and was so horrified by Meghan's treatment of her own father. I think for me, I'm such a family guy, you know, my
You were on
mum
the
and my
inside as
dad.
well, Dan, as it were. You were on the inside with the Markles, really finding out what was going on behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
but do you know what's
Yeah.
interesting, Tash? Do you know the only reason I did it was because, and this is one of the reasons why I speak out against the Royal Rota, and I know not everyone likes that because they look at someone like Rebecca English and they think, oh, she's a nice person. And yes, we're all happy that Rebecca English won in her court case against Prince Harry. No one's disputing that. But the Royal Rota were completely complicit at that time, Tash, in a cover-up in regards to the behaviour of Meghan Markle. And I knew her behavior was appalling. And remember, I was in the mainstream media, yes, but I was totally outside of the Royal Rota, and my role was executive editor of The Sun. So I had quite a lot of power within the mainstream media to actually chase my own stories. And there was a terrible woman. She actually hosts a podcast now. Honestly, one of the worst people I've ever worked with, called Emily Andrews. You may have seen her on Royal Podcast, and apologies if you like her
really?
and think she's a nice person,
No.
but she was a terrible, terrible person covering up for Meghan Markle and trying to stop my original reporting on Meghan Markle. But she wasn't getting any of the scoops. And my editor was like, what's really going on? And I was determined to find out. And I did find out. And Tash, I've just been looking back over the past 10 years. And I even wrote, this is in November 2018. And remember, this is quite a bold thing for me to do, given I'm still within the mainstream media. And I wrote at the time, the Duchess of Sussex, formerly known as Meghan Markle, and the Duchess of Cambridge, formerly known as Kate Middleton, don't particularly like each other. There, I said it. This week, many royal correspondents and commentators, the vast majority in the pocket of the PR teams for the royal households, tap danced and tiptoed around the thorny issue. But as loyal readers know, I prefer to tell it straight and simply report the facts as they are, which is why I was the first to reveal this very royal feud. On November the 9th, in an exclusive that was much discussed by royal watchers internationally, I reported that the fed-up Queen, God bless her, warned Prince Harry over Meghan's behaviour before their wedding. And you've got to remember, Tash, at that point, all of the Royal Rota correspondents, Emily Andrews, Rebecca English, Camilla Tominay, the whole load of them was saying, nothing to see here, Meghan's a delight, everything's great. And so I knew what the truth was, and this is something that I've taken into Outspoken and taken into my independent career, but I also took it to GB News, actually, when I was at GB News too. I'm not just going to follow royal PR. I've got to report the truth. And some people don't like that, but I think everyone supported me when that meant exposing the truth about Meghan Markle. So it's been an interesting journey. But Tash, what I wanted to do is go through Outspoken's 10 worst moments chronologically
just 10?
with
Just
Meghan Markle.
10?
Well, honestly, I had to really, Tash, there was like a list of 50. And so
Like
I
a
really
scroll.
had to think about like, what were the key moments? Okay, what were the key moments? And we'll swap notes as we go. And this is all chronological. And I kicked off, Tash, and this is what did it for me. The subhuman treatment of Thomas Markle. That was what started it for me. The fact that Harry hadn't even met the guy. He hadn't even spoken to him properly.
Yeah, that was a massive red flag, wasn't it? When he went in for a radio interview as well, and he turned around and said that they were going to be the family that she never had. So it was very apparent that Meghan was telling lies, that she was like an orphan Annie, that she grew up in absolute poverty, that she had nothing. Obviously, this is Meghan trying to get Harry to be her hero and to save her. This is why Harry got Meghan to go to that first Christmas, despite them. I think they weren't engaged. She was a girlfriend, and that went against all previous royal girlfriends, because normally you have to have a ring on your finger to go, because he said that Meghan would be alone. She's got no one to love her. And it shows the manipulation that Meghan was capable of. But the treatment of her father was something that I have always been disgusted by. I think many people, it hit people, I think, that have lost their fathers as well, people that would give a second, you give absolutely anything to have that moment again. And I think that resonated with a lot of people, where he just adored her entire life. And for Harry to not even have had the basic respect, the basic decency to meet him, and it was becoming all the more obvious that something shady was going on as well, because he was meant to be walking her down the aisle, but Harry had never met him. They'd never flown him over to the UK like they did Doria. He hadn't even had a suit fitted. It was obvious before Thomas did those photographs that he wasn't going to go to that wedding. I don't think Meghan ever had any intentions of dear old dad going, because Thomas Markle would out her for all of the lies that she's told. And that's the very same reason why she didn't want any friends, any family, even her Suits co-stars. When it came to the evening reception of the wedding, they were allowed to come during the day for the photos. So it made, the public see, oh, Meghan does have people. Oh, look, there's some of her Suits co-stars. But they were not invited to the evening because Meghan had told so many lies, in my opinion, she couldn't risk them going around having a few drinks and sinking some of those ships. But yeah, it was
100%.
awful.
Then the next moment, Tash, for me, was Tiara Gate and the pre-wedding behaviour, which I just got into. But the key thing, Tash, and this is, I think, what always informed my reporting right from the start, was that it was the Queen who was unhappy. And it just made everything so different right from the start, because they couldn't just blame courtiers or men in grey suits, Tash. It was the Queen. It was the Queen. She picked up the phone directly to Prince Harry and said, Meghan cannot behave like this. And I was so happy that actually I was able to confirm the Queen's involvement, because it really did mean Harry and Meghan. I mean, they still tried, of course, but it made it much harder for them to deny the depths of concern.
Yeah, I mean, the way that they treated everybody from the moment that she joined, it was clearly obvious that Meghan was not treating anybody around her nicely, the staff. But for the Queen to have to get involved so many times to tell Meghan, you don't talk to the staff like that, you don't treat our chefs like that, you don't treat the gardeners like that. This is not how we treat people, Meghan, that you can't just have what you want. This is the tiara you're going to have. I just cannot imagine someone. Meghan at the time was also trying to, it's a bit like her, one minute she's marching down the carpet, sashaying like she's a superstar, and the next minute she's doing the coy hand over mouth, like, I'm so shy, I'm a little wallflower act. This was very similar. She was trying to tell the world that she's really down to earth. Yet behind the scenes, she was a diva, like had never entered in the royal family before. She was demanding, she was rude, she was horrible to everybody, because Meghan obviously feels like it makes her feel powerful. And she was encouraging that sort of behavior in Harry. Yes, Harry, you can speak to people like they are a piece of dog muck on your shoe. Yes, you can do this. I mean, there are so many different reports that came out. The Queen spoke to her, William spoke to her. Do not continue to treat people like this. And Meghan is incapable of treating people nicely, because she sees everybody as either someone that is going to be of use to her, and whilst they are of use, she'll love bomb them to death. And that's why celebrities and famous people say she's the nicest, sweetest person that you could ever meet in your entire life. But anybody else that's worked with her, worked for her, or even perhaps someone that was once a former friend has said, oh, when she turns on you, she really turns. She really is the master of deception, that one.
Third low light for me, Tash, was the bullying. And it was first called out by Catherine, the Princess of Wales. And I think people often forget that. I was the first to break the news, November 2018. And
is it the nanny?
Well, actually, at that point, it was more about the staff in and around the palace, sort of, the shared staff, because they shared a whole load of staff members. Yes, yeah. but obviously, Tash, what I then didn't know was the PA actually was for, the woman who had worked for Robbie Williams.
Melissa Tabati.
Yes. But at that point, we didn't know that. We didn't have names.
Yeah.
But what I knew is that Catherine was horrified. And I didn't use the B word at that point. You've got to be very careful. I was the first to do it. So it was Catherine raising issues about the way Meghan spoke to their shared staff at Kensington Palace. But it was the start of the bullying revelations that would get much worse.
Yeah, I mean, it really is horrific when you go back and you think how many complaints there have been. How many? I mean, there is, it's not one or two people she has bullied. She has been horrific to people in the royal family since departing the royal family. We even know from Archwell staff, those that were brave enough to speak to, I think it was it Vanity Fair? They got it, or the
Yes.
Hollywood Reporter, or
Both,
actually.
both.
I think both
About
publications.
American staff,
Yeah.
which is what's so
So
interesting.
the behavior has continued. So it goes to show, it validates all of those stories that came out, the stories that you broke as well, that she was being nasty to palace staff. And it validated, not only was she a bully, but the royals were shocked and horrified that they were having to intervene. This is a woman, as I said, in one breath is trying to act like that she's down to earth. She's a nice, normal girl. This is, or as the mainstream media were reporting, this is the breath of fresh air that the royal family need. She wasn't a breath of fresh air. She was a tornado from hell. She was trying to tear everything and anybody that she felt got into her path to pieces. Meghan was not a breath of fresh air in any way, shape, or form. But I will give her some credit, because I will have said this, that I feel she did the royal family a favor because she took out the weakest link, a bit like Wallace Simpson did when she got Prince Edward to abdicate, because obviously we ended up with a better king. So, you know,
Indeed.
there are small wins in this mess. There are small wins.
Tash, the next moment, fourth low light. I've described this as moon bump gate and the birth riddle. And again, I was the first to write about this. Look at it. 10th of May, 2019. Call the mishap. Royal baby news. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry forced to deny claims they stage managed Archie's birth. And I sent 8 queries to Buckingham Palace about that shocking behaviour, which they did address on the record. But it was very obvious right from day one that she was doing something weird with her births. But first, the number one worst fruit for your waistline. Are you turning healthy fruits into highly unhealthy fruits without even realizing it? Fruit can be one of the healthiest things you can put into your body, but the majority of Americans are guilty of making this single mistake that can counteract all of the health benefits of fruit. Some fruits help with occasional constipation, reduce bloating, and even help burn calories. Others can wreak havoc on your digestive system and energy levels. I came across this viral presentation from world-renowned surgeon Dr. Stephen Gundry that showcases the 3 fruits to stop eating today. And it was shocking. I had no idea. And after finding it out, I've stopped eating these too. I'm going to put a link for you all to watch it because I want you to gain this information. I think it's truly important. You can watch it right now at thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. That's thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. I also linked it in the description box below the video too, so make sure to click on it or just go to thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. Oh, and by the way, eliminating these fruits could forever change the way we help increase energy levels, decrease brain fog, support digestion, and even lose weight. So make sure to click below or go to thehealthyfat.com/outspoken to find out now. Dr. Gundry has lost 70 pounds himself using his research and has kept the weight off for over 20 years and counting. His digestive issues are gone, his health is fantastic, and he feels younger and healthier today than he did in his 40s. His video has been watched by over 20 million people to date, and you can watch and learn more about it at thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. It's linked at the bottom of this video, but he'll teach you exactly how he has kept his weight off for free at thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. Just click on the link in the description below the video. But now, back to the show.
Oh yeah, she was. They played so many games, and it's never made sense to a lot of people. But it's also enabled the conspiracy theories, if you can call them that. Some are conspiracies, but some of them are just people looking at it logically. Anybody that's ever carried a baby, for example, has turned around and said there is no way that you can, at 8, 9 months pregnant, that large, bend down to the floor in 5-inch stilettos with your knees together, because the baby literally doesn't squish up in itself. It cannot go anywhere. Bumps are solid. But it's the fact she doesn't even wobble as she stands up. Oh, Meghan does yoga. Yoga does not teach you something like that. But again, because of the games that Meghan and Harry played, let's move away from the moon bump theory. But even the messing about saying that she'd gone into labor, oh no, the baby had been born. Harry, when he came out, when they, this photograph is perfect, when they showed the baby to the world, they refused to show the baby to the world. That baby is wrapped up so tight, you can just about see a nose and an eye. They only allowed one person in there, I think it was, wasn't it, Dan? There was only one person that was allowed to ask questions and to film Archie, and Harry refused to even turn the baby to the camera. It was, the whole thing was bizarre. But
exactly.
they
And what did they have to
storm.
hide? Why? What were they so worried about?
They caused this storm, and they continue to do so about both of their children and the surrogacy. And that video, that awful, tacky, chavvy dancing, twerking with curtains up her dress. I mean, seriously. Yeah.
Number 5, Tash, was the moment where they left Megxit and lying to me to try and stop me breaking the story. That is something that Prince Harry actually ended up admitting in his autobiography, Spare. And then I think we take a break over COVID and come to number 6 and number 7 and number 8, Tash. Moments we will never forget. Yes, because we have these 3 critical post-Megxit moments. That's how I see them. First, the Oprah Winfrey interview as Prince Philip lay dying. 7, the Netflix Harry and Meghan docuseries with those attacks on the royal family, attacks on the institution, and Spare, which I think then continued a full-on kamikaze desire to bring down the British royal family. And all 3, Tash, are so significant, but I think in a way can be grouped together, because for me, after those 3 moments, there was no going back. There was no going back. No. They may try, but there is no going back after those 3 incidents.
Yeah, they were the 3 main ones. Obviously, we've had additional interviews, additional podcasts, additional magazine interviews and all sorts of things. But they were the 3 big major ones where they hurled so many allegations, and they didn't just air dirty laundry. I mean, this was literally someone that was a member of that family, that loved their family, that grew up demanding his own privacy, that was suing the media outlets because his privacy had been breached in his mind. And then yet here he was doing the biggest breach on the royal family that has ever been known in history. I mean, revealing that Prince William was circumcised. You cannot get much more personal than that. It wasn't just Harry revealing details about himself. He was revealing intimate things about his family. He said that King Charles reeked and stank and recoiled. People recoiled from him. These are very nasty, malicious things. His brother was bald. He said his brother doesn't look anything like Princess Diana. I mean, that in itself is completely delusional. Prince William's the spit of his mother. But yes, I mean, his attacks were so vicious and so cruel. And they're the personal attacks, let alone all of the lies, which we know so many of them have been proved to be complete and utter lies. And it's actually scary how much was pushed again, like you said, by the royal rota, when they knew immediately that the reason why Archie was not a prince because they had to wait for the king to become the king, and then he would have been entitled to it as a grandchild of the monarch. They knew the rules. Of course they knew the rules, but they still pushed it. They still peddled it. So yeah, it's they are definitely the 3 big things that they did, and there's no coming back from that. I cannot see them ever being allowed back.
And then we come to my 9th lowlight, Tash, but I think this is when things had turned a bit, and all of a sudden we could have a bit of fun, because in some ways, Tash, we won. Because yes, they had those 3 terrible moments, but and I talk about this as a collective, a community, so many people doing such incredible work, so many anonymous accounts on X, Meghan's Mole, Royal Grift, so many we could talk about. Exactly. Doing so much work. And in some ways, by the 9th lowlight, we'd won, because for me, it's the launch of With Love Meghan and Was Never. And it's almost the failure, Tash, because sure, by this point, we've had the end of the Spotify deal, Bill Simmons saying effing grifters. There's been a whole load of moments leading up to it. But I think it was with Love Meghan and Was Never. And it's like, this ain't going to work. And it's
They'd
your
gone
own fault.
they had gone from people being scared that they were going to bring down the monarchy to destroying their own credibility because of the number of lies that they told, because of the petty and vicious things that they said. People could see, hang on a minute, these aren't humanitarians. These aren't even people that I think are actually mentally stable with some of the stuff that those two have come out with. And obviously all of the continuous lies. So then when they have done such terrible things to their own families, and then Meghan comes out skipping gaily around the garden, picking vegetables. Well, she didn't, she got them from the farmer's market, but and then trying to push this whole sweetness, love and kindness. It was so fake. But yes, you can just laugh at them. At this point, we got South Park. Now that one, I don't know if you had that in there. I'm sorry if I've just like
No,
breached
do you know
number 10
what,
here.
Tash? I didn't, but I think you're right, actually.
That
I think
is
it's
when they
almost a
became
more
alarmed.
important moment because
That was like
yeah,
the closing point between those three big major things, and then them being a complete and utter mess, a laugh. People poke fun at them. But yeah, I would say in between that finished it for them, really, because they hit the nail on the head. But
and Tash, then it brings us back up to date, and the
Yes.
10th lowlight, and I would say this is where we go back to being very worried, and it is the desperate return to the UK. And it does matter because it's like, it's almost coming full circle, isn't it? It's like, oh, drats. Things are almost so bad that now they're pretending that they don't hate us. That now they're
gaslighting.
pretending that they didn't tell us all that we were racist, Tash, and they want
Yeah.
back in.
They're gaslighting. And again, some of the royal reporters have jumped straight back on in full
Shame
circle
on
mode.
them. Shows
they're
that how terrible they are.
Yeah, that they're pushing this whole story about, oh, poor Harry and Meghan, and the royals really should let them back because, well, I can't think of a single reason why they should. Harry and Meghan have spoken about giving an apology, but they've never given an apology. Prince Philip dying mere weeks after Oprah, you think that would have made them go, oh, actually, do you know what? We really did badly time that. You weren't lying about Prince Philip's health. You weren't lying to muzzle Meghan. Remember that story that got put out there? But they've never apologized for any of it because they're not sorry for any of it, and they will do it again. You'd have to be a complete moron to not see that Harry and Meghan are totally capable of doing it again. And I think there is more chance of the reason why they are circling the royal family like sharks at the moment, because they are intending to do something like that again. You only have to look at the recent failure, which is Cookie Queens, with people calling them still box office poison. The only thing they've ever been good at is actually trashing the royals. And in one sense, it's true. It is true. The only decent thing that they earned money from, their biggest paychecks, have been attacking the royal family. They are not after a reconciliation. I think you'd have to be completely deluded to think so. They want to get in close enough so they can cause problems, and then they will financially gain from it. That's my entire full circle moment when it comes to them. They are just circling the royal family because they need content. They need something to sell. And I really don't think that the king is so stupid not to see through it. I know there's a big push that the king just wants to reconcile with his darling, darling boy. But I can't see that he is being taken in for it, because the king only met him a few years ago for 45 minutes and he's only had another, 50-minute with him since, over the course of the last couple of years. Harry and Meghan can push and they can peddle their Sussex propaganda as much as they want, and they can have the backing of certain royal reporters. It doesn't mean that it's going to be true. And I think there's far too many of us out there now, Dan, that will never have the wool pulled over our eyes ever again.
Indeed.
Never.
And some of us didn't, luckily, at
No.
the start. Tash, according to Taz, it's been cathartic. And this is why you need to go and follow, subscribe, according to Taz, because she was there, right? She was doing this before the mainstream media, okay? So make sure you support her and subscribe to her incredible channel. And Tash, keep on being honest about it, according to Taz. And thank you so much for your support over this past 10 years as well. Outspoken is now on Substack, and I would love you to be part of our community. The important thing, especially in terms of what I'm talking about today, is that I work outside the mainstream media, outside of the Royal Road, to completely independent. Your support allows me to do that. The address, to sign up. It's very easy, by the way, very quick, and I would be so grateful. You can message me directly there, www.outspoken.live. Dan Wotton Outspoken is your no spin, no bias, no censorship outlet for independent news. We have no big tech backing or billionaires pulling my strings, but that does mean I need your support. So please hit subscribe on YouTube, turn on the notifications.